Let's start with we're back. Blah blah blah. Oh, wait,
Well,
keep that in there.
Okay, yeah. We'll start with we're back.
Yeah.
And we didn't actually introduce ourselves last episode, so we should probably do that.
Hey, I'm Zach.
I'm Ben. Welcome to the Movie Vault.
Welcome back to the Movie Vault, because we're back again.
And now we are we bi-weekly or bi-monthly? How does that work?
I don't get that phraseology. Doesn't bi-weekly mean twice a week?
Yeah.
But people say it as every other week.
Right, and bi-monthly would be correct, right? Because it's 2 times a month.
Yeah, but
unless you throw in the possibility of a third week that you might do because of how the month schedule worked out.
we're bi to try monthly.
If you had like 3 Mondays in a month, you might do yeah. Anyway, it's, I guess, you just call it whatever it is. We're releasing every other week now is the plan.
Yeah. So I don't know what the name of that would. Bi-2 weekly. No.
Yeah.
2 weekly. Yeah.
It's the name of the Movie Vault schedule.
Okay. Yeah. And this 2 week we are going to discuss the very, very large Hollywood inclusive movie called Look Up. Oh, wait. Don't Look Up. Oh, wait. Which one?
Which should you look up or don't look, or maybe you should just look forward or backwards or.
Yeah. We're all Chris Evans.
Or like just go the thing where you like go cross-eyed. I mean, honestly, that's the thing. That's what this movie was about. It was about there being only 2 possible directions when there's actually like 6 possible directions.
Exactly, but we'll get into that because I also agree with that. Anyway, so first off, we'd like to thank you. We've actually had a lot of listens for some reason when we're down. Maybe we should not upload more often.
Yeah, honestly, we're thinking release like 5 more episodes and then take another 6-month break.
And then get like triple views.
Yeah. Really, our Godfather episode has skyrocketed in listens. Honestly, it's that one was. I mean, it is one of the most famous movies ever, so it makes sense.
And with the most famous people talking about it.
Right. Yeah. It's like pretty much all you could ask. The superstars of movie, of Hollywood, and the superstars of the podcast world. I mean, Zach and I are basically the next Joe Rogan and. Who's second place in the podcast game? I don't even know.
Yeah, who would you be?
I don't know. I can't even think of it, like Lex Friedman. Like they're all like related to Joe Rogan in some way. That are all the other podcasters that I know.
Either
who are,
way,
like, famous.
Either way, it is an all-inclusive, all-you-can-eat Movie Vault episode that you should check back if you haven't watched it.
Yeah,
listen to it. I did this.
The Godfather is a really, really long movie, and we did our very best to try to remember everything that happened because a lot happened.
Yeah.
But
although if you haven't seen it by now, then and you don't know the story,
Yeah, there is no spoiler alert for that movie. There is for this movie, however, because this movie came out in like mid-December. So
yeah, something like that.
It is on Netflix, if you've ever heard of that.
Yes, and it has half of Hollywood in it. Ranging from stars from Leonardo DiCaprio to Jennifer Lawrence to Ariana Grande to Jonah Hill to random other people.
Melanie Linsky, Robert Joy, Tomer Sisley, famous people.
Yeah, exactly.
Tyler Perry's in this, actually. He's pretty famous. And Ariana Grande is in this.
Yep.
As somebody who's basically herself as a meme kind. I don't know, like a very characterized version of herself, maybe.
She wasn't even acting.
Yeah, she just basically had to show up and do her Ariana Grande thing. Anyway, I think we should start this episode by talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. Because this had to be one of the most interesting roles I have ever watched Leonardo DiCaprio play. This was the first role where I was like, you know what? Leonardo DiCaprio is not that attractive in this movie. Even though one of the main points of the movie was that Leonardo DiCaprio was like a really attractive nerd scientist type. What did they call him? An AILF? AILF? Which, wait, or no.
DILF, DILF.
No, it wasn't DILF.
It wasn't?
No, it was some other acronym of the same type, which we can all assume. If you know what that means, you know what that means. And if you don't
look it up. Don't look up.
Or do look up, or don't. I mean,
but don't look
up at your own discretion. Let's just say. Anyway, so that was maybe a disagreement that I had. Like, did you think that like his goal of this movie was to
Your question is he attractive in this movie?
Yeah, like that's what we're starting with. Yes.
Ooh, that is probably the most serious topic about this movie. Let's see.
I get straight to like the deep like stuff immediately into the episode.
I think he pulls it off. I do.
Yeah, I mean he does pull it off, but
Not
it's
the
still
role, the look.
No. I think the part about him that is not attractive more than his look is his personality.
Yes, he's timid but straightforward, and you can tell he's genuine until he isn't.
Yeah, and part of it's like he just seems kind of weak, but he also is very smart. So you got like these kind of like conflicting things, and he has a sense of direction until he stops having a sense of direction. So then you're like, he seems a little wishy-washy.
He is very likable in the beginning. I'll say that.
And then
I think he pulls off the look very well.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. I think this goes. It's definitely a win for DiCaprio in that it shows that he has an ability to pull off a different role and make it convincing. That was my determination. Because I've seen him in like your Catch Me If You Can, Shutter Island. Once
Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He plays different characters in those movies, or The Departed. But he's generally the suave, cool main lead character who everyone admires. He has to go through struggles, but he's strong. He has this like typecast, like many main actors do, and there's nothing wrong with having it. But every once in a while, when you see one break that cast of their traditional character, it makes you realize, oh, this is why people consider this guy at the top of his game, because he can do this. Like, it doesn't mean he has to do it all the time, but he has the ability to when he desires.
Yeah, it's kind of like Steve Carell doing a serious role.
Yeah.
But, I mean, less polar.
Yeah, Steve Carell doing a serious role, or like, I could think of a couple of different examples, but anytime somebody goes against cast and it's not like, it's believable, like I applaud that. But I also am like, you don't have to like keep doing that all the time, which we'll get into to what we think about Adam McKay, the director of this movie, and I think we might have some conversation about some of the stuff related to this conversation in the light of being a director.
Anyway, so this movie kind of has a split in my opinion. So there are things about it that worked, and there are things that I think didn't work. But if I had, so I can list them, but really just starting out, like, the pacing for me was a little weird. So the first part of the movie that worked was the pacing of that part was really interesting. It had a sort of we're doomed feel, like they figure out the comet, Jennifer Lawrence, and she played her character very well, although her character
Pixie Dream Girl scientist version.
Yeah, and she was a little annoying in some parts, but like truthful, realistic, and she was the protagonist anyway. So, but yeah, the beginning was good. It kind of cut to different scenes of like what would happen, how fast would this escalate, and it escalated very fast, which is probably realistic. I wouldn't know, but it seemed realistic. And they kind of go on and they go to the president. The president kind of ignores President Orlean and her son Jonah Hill, who was very good in this movie. He's pretty funny. And yeah, it just kind of, you can see how this is all just breaking into it, because there's a lot that goes on. That the messages, people won't believe it. It gets politicized. The media companies do stuff that they want to do. It can ruin people's lives, cause people to make bad decisions. And yeah, it's political gain, everything like that. All the things that have probably impacted people the most in the past 2.5 years are addressed in this movie. No matter what you believe or what you think about anything that's happened, anything at all that's happened in the past 2.5 years, this movie talks about pretty much all the topics. I don't personally think it addressed it in the right way, but it was interesting. But it was also tiring. I don't want to. I generally watch a movie to escape. But yeah, this brought me back to the real life, and it was okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was my sort of synopsis. I think I wrote it in a way that's readable now. My original version was quite something to behold, and was not very understandable. But I said this: Adam McKay directs a complicated, convoluted movie to try to postulate that the truth becomes elusive in a distracted world. The only problem is he fails to make a convincing case as to what or who should be the source of our truth.
Yeah. If you don't agree with me, you're dumb.
Yeah.
It felt like that. It didn't say that directly, but it felt like that.
Essentially, the argument in this movie is that science has all the answers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the core. Because the scientist... So he's kind of arguing that the scientific method that is in academic circles, academic research circles, they have pure truth on their hands. And then what happens is that truth gets taken to the government, and the government like pollutes the truth and then makes it, and utilizes it to their advantage. Mm-hmm. So that's McKay's theory, or his belief about what goes on in the world.
Yeah.
The question is that what actually happens, or is more what happens that science and the government and Hollywood and pharmaceutical companies are all linked together, and corporations and the public opinion on the internet? Now, there's a lot of power of public opinion on the internet, are all sort of morphed together in this giant orgy of just of just like of not like they are all collectively polluting the truth at the same time. Yeah. Because there's no funding for the science projects without the government, or without corporations, or without these academic institutions, and all of it is a giant power struggle to have control over the narrative, which it kind of acknowledges, but it also says the narrative that the director believes is the one that's true.
Yeah, and maybe we should start with that. I'm gonna talk. Let's start with, I think the other side is also a little bit true. So I think it did validate that some science is true, mm-hmm. and the actual method is pure in its nature.
Yes.
However, people are sinful, and people therefore ruin everything about it. But it does start from that initial discovery, doing calculations, logic is correct, it is real, right?
Right.
So
yes.
that I did appreciate that it did emphasize that science is a truth. However, I don't think that it emphasized that the people who, although they would know orbitals, but the stuff that goes on in the world is so new and different than orbitals.
That's the thing. They picked something. Maybe the kind of flaw of the movie is its foundation, or maybe it's not even the flaw. I don't know. Their flaw is fair, but the thing that they picked to represent all of this
so obvious,
strife
so pointed,
is so obvious that, and then they're trying to correlate that with other things that aren't as to be honest, aren't as obvious. Like yes, you can say that people would maybe react this way about a comet. In today's world, I don't know. I've seen so many things happen that it might be somewhat believable, but I don't think there'd be a group of people looking down at the ground and not looking up.
There would be a group of people.
There would be. But okay, fine. We have flat earthers in the world.
I don't know. We don't.
Yeah, that's the and there's no way to prove what would or wouldn't happen, and the director takes advantage of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Chris Evans was right in this movie. He says, I don't look up or down. I look forward, straight ahead, or something. He says something along those lines. I don't actually think he's right, but I think that I don't think that this movie represents correctly what actually has happened, even though the director is making it represent what has happened in the past 2.5 years. But I think the flaw is, like you said, the foundation. It's a different situation. A comet coming towards Earth is way different than a pandemic, no matter what you believe. People would still do what happened in this movie, I think.
Yeah, I think
people would look
there
down,
would be an extent.
And it might be the exact same thing that happens, but to know actual truth about it is much different. Yeah, but even we don't really know, which sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The other thing that I thought about this movie was, I think Adam McKay was trying to make a movie that couldn't be criticized. Like, and I think that's like what made it so criticized, was that he tried to make it so that nobody could criticize it. Like it had this like feeling that it was so intelligent, and it was bringing you something that nobody had ever quite put into these terms that are so intricately obvious, but it ended up just being like, wow, here's another guy who just thinks he's smarter than everyone else and has it all figured out.
A scene in like a TV show where the guy's like, who's with me? And he looks around and nobody is.
But the thing is, in a weird way, it does kind of reflect on human nature, because as I like kind of reflect on some of these issues, there is this sort of like natural human desire that I've felt at times to like try to come up with my own personal theorization of what's going on, to explain things, and that becomes my like coping mechanism to the fact that I can't control things. Like a lot of when you find flaws in yourself, it comes down to the idea that you think that you have control over something in your life, but the reality is nothing is in our control. And this movie is kind of arguing that things can be in our control, but people are too stupid to realize it, because they're saying that you could blast the comet and everybody would be fine, but which might be true now. Like you might actually be able to do that. I don't know how nuclear weapons work or anything like that, but theoretically you could do something. But the idea that we can control, I think that's one of the main things that people have seen throughout this if you want to use the pandemic as an example, is that...
Which is what he was going for anyway.
No, I mean, he was going for the pandemic and for global warming. Is there's this idea that humans have the ability to control the world and that we don't do it. And maybe if the world was a flawless, sinless place, we could control everything, but that's like but it's not
unattainable. There's no utopia that we can strive for.
And I don't know what you do. Like, there's so many disagreements. This is where all the disagreements come with. People can acknowledge that and still argue about what we should actually go from there when we realize that, and because people acknowledge that who don't even have any, like, there's one evangelical Christian represented, or ex-evangelical Christian maybe, because he's like, I don't know that he's like part of the church, but people can acknowledge that the world is like fundamentally flawed and broken, I guess, outside of being a Christian. Like, you can still sort of, I think people would have different philosophies on what good and bad are kind of outside of Christianity, but they could still be like, the world's flawed, but they might still have a different idea on how you should do that. And even within like religious groups like Christianity or I imagine other religious groups, there's like disagreement on what the practical application of living out those religions are in these settings. And so then we got this movie. It's like a big vomit fest of all of this stuff.
Basically, what we're trying to say is we don't think that the foundation of this movie can represent what has happened.
No.
And what is happening. So now we can go into the parts that we've enjoyed about the specific aspect of this movie, non-related to what we thought. Although it does relate in other parts too that we can talk about. But like the overall global warming, COVID part, I didn't think it represented that well. Maybe in some parts, but overall, it did seem like and that's just my opinion. I don't know everything.
Yeah, and again, that's where like I could become exactly what I'm accusing Adam McKay of being. So like what I would want anybody who's listening to this to understand is that I'm not saying that I know what the right answer is. I just think Adam McKay doesn't have it. That's the conclusion that I'll come to. I won't spend all my time arguing about what should or should not have been done during the pandemic, what should or should not be done about global warming. At least not in this context. Like this is just not that beneficial to anybody.
I do have my views.
Yeah, I have my own personal views, but they don't necessarily, like me saying them out loud on some sort of public forum that I have no context of who's going to be listening or...
Yeah, but if I were on either side, my views wouldn't have been represented correctly in this movie. And on either side, I see two sides of it, in my opinion.
Well, because they did try to distill it down to the 2 points.
But anyway, we can get into the parts that are about this specific movie that we kind of liked. And so that is a big flaw in the movie. Because that is exactly what he was going for. It was kind of kind of he thinks he's changing people's minds, but the critics destroyed this movie. Many
Which
of
is
them didn't even
fascinating
think
to
it
me.
was
I
that.
didn't even read the critical reviews, but it's kind of, I mean, there could be all kinds of reasons why critics wouldn't like this movie, but you would think that more people would latch on to something like this based on our current climate and what Hollywood is like. But so what I think you found out is that McKay thinks he's jumping on something. Yeah, he thought he was jumping on something that everyone would get on board with. And really he's has to learn the lesson the hard way. Like, this is not what people were looking for. He totally misjudged this. Maybe that's McKay's story though, because he started out directing some different movies. Yeah. And McKay is interesting because he directed like Anchorman. We reviewed Talladega Nights. Those are like some of the dumbest movies.
Step Brothers.
And so there obviously was a point in his career where he decided, I got to do something smart.
I gotta show people I'm smart.
And I should actually look him up, because I think that turning point was what I think was actually a really good movie, which is The Big Short. And The Big Short is probably his first movie that is in... Well, he does have this movie called... Wait, I can't... Now I need it. Yeah, okay, so he has this movie called... The Campaign was still... He didn't even direct that.
He directed The Vice, which is a very divisive movie. Yeah,
The Big Short, Vice, and Don't Look Up are all kind of the same style of movie. They have this weird editing style where they go back and forth between random, like, video picture thing. Like, they all do that.
I know what you mean, yeah.
And they have cast an A-list cast. Every movie does. He works with Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt, and he does this thing. I mean, Brad Pitt kind of did the same thing that DiCaprio did in The Big Short, where he played some sort of guy who was like not particularly good looking, like he's known for, and he still had charisma, but it was just a different kind. But The Big Short was a good movie because it was about something that had happened that people didn't realize, the housing crisis. And for the most part, I thought it portrayed it in... Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And it was about people who shorted the housing crisis. This was called The Big Short.
I'm not dumb. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I know. And knowing a little bit about the housing crisis, I do listen to Tim Dillon, who's a comedian who sold subprime mortgages in the... don't necessarily recommend him, but it was interesting to find out some of the mechanics of how that worked. And so I thought, it didn't really get political in the sense that it was blaming, or maybe I just avoided listening to it was blaming like particular politicians. It was more like everybody was doing this. Like, everyone was blinded to what was going on, except for these like 4 or 5 people who saw what was really happening and didn't believe the lies that they could, pull off these like terrible mortgages and stuff. Vice, you watched Vice, right?
I haven't. No.
You haven't watched Vice, okay. Vice is about the Vice President of the United States during the Bush administration, Dick Cheney.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah. And Christian Bale plays Dick Cheney. And it's interesting.
When was Dick Cheney out of office?
What?
I'm gonna look up when he got out of office and when that movie came out.
And Dick Cheney is a divisive political figure, but McKay definitely had a much stronger take on an actual political opinion than this.
When did that movie come out?
2018.
Okay.
And he made a statement that Dick Cheney did a lot of these things. Now, I haven't read up on it. Dick Cheney could have done everything that he portrayed in the movie exactly like how he portrayed it. And to be honest, there probably are definitely things that Dick Cheney did wrong. But the question is, did McKay, did he understand everything that was going on? But I definitely think there were some shady things going on. So I'm not I thought it was definitely still an interesting movie.
That is crazy. Maybe 9 years after.
That is maybe the one part. It was very soon after it happened, which seems to be something that he likes doing. And I'm not. Is Dick Cheney still alive or no?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's I don't know. Like, how does this movie get made? There's a lot of questions on that. But I think that if you look at it from you take away all of your political leanings, if you lean to one party or another. If you lean to the Democratic Party, you're probably going to be fine with a movie like Vice. If you lean to the Republican Party, you might be a little uneasy because this is somebody who is in office who Republicans voted in. If you don't have any sort of leaning, then this is great for you because like this probably, and if you, it might be good for people who lean the direction toward the Republicans because you might see sort of the flaws in that party. And that's what I'm saying. If you try to look at it from that perspective and take the stuff that's not like insinuating things beyond what happened.
In that
I don't
specific situation.
Yeah. Anyway, not to talk too much about
Vice. A person
Vice.
doesn't represent a party every time.
Right.
Anyway, this movie's bringing up a lot of different things, but
I'm trying to talk about politics in a way that I can.
People. No, I'm just
no, I don't want to not offend people, but I want to acknowledge that I don't know that much. So I'm not. It's not because I don't want to take a stand on things necessarily. It's more that, I think from a reviewer perspective, it's better to sometimes take off some of your personal biases and beliefs and just kind of let the listener determine from what the movie is saying. Like, I'm just trying to provide you the factual information.
We are political Molinists.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. But
I'm trying to do the Joe Rogan thing where he's in the centrist and then he's just so wishy-washy because of it. he just leans into whatever guest is on his podcast.
And then he like disagrees when someone else is on. He's like, oh yeah, that guy's.
He has taken some interesting political, or not political, but like I guess stands lately that have gotten him into some hot water. But I think he's realizing that you have to do that in order to be. I mean, that's what engages people, and so that's what he's done. But we should get into the parts of this movie that are kind of interesting and fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of the characters were portrayed very well. So the acting was mid to top tier for me. Leo's character, I forget his name, Doctor something, is very good. I can't remember anyone's names.
I will bring them up. So we got Dr. Randall Mindy as Leonardo DiCaprio. Jennifer Lawrence's Cate Blanchett.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And then like Jonah Hill portrayed well, and Meryl Streep played President Orlean very well. Yeah, so I mean that the interactions between them. So Dr. Dibiasky and Jonah Hill were pretty fun. Jennifer Lawrence and Leo had some good chemistry, I think, somewhat.
Yeah,
it was an academic relationship, so of course it's still professional, but he's still trying to be emotional support.
And that's the good thing. Like, I'm so glad that they didn't make this relationship messy.
Ew. Yeah.
Like, in a romantic way. Because it would have been gross and it would have tainted the movie. And a lot of movies like doing that, so I was glad they didn't do that.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah.
The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker. I kind of like that. That was fine.
Yeah, that was so good. They were brothers and sisters in my mind. I saw weird stuff happening on the screen when they kissed. Anyway.
You know who was a really good performance in this movie?
Who?
Mark Rylance as Peter Ishawal.
Yes.
That was so good.
He represents Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Tim Cook, all those guys.
Just all of them as one person.
Mark Zuckerberg. He's a
I definitely saw a lot of Zuckerberg in his like
in his talk.
Yeah, in his talk. And then there was probably a lot of Elon Musk in his ingenuity.
Robots,
space-related things.
Mm-hmm. And he's the richest guy, so also, I guess Elon or Jeff.
Whichever one.
Whichever one's flexible.
To be honest, Jeff Bezos is pretty, compared to all the other billionaires, he's pretty sterile to me. Like, I feel like he doesn't do that many interesting things other than...
However, I learned that in every second he makes $2,700.
Man.
And he makes, $200 million in a day? Yeah, something like that. Like
That's
240
ridiculous.
million in a
That's in passive income.
in a day, and he
He's
makes
not doing anything.
I think he made like 700. It was 7 or 70 or 7.5 bill. Was it billion? Something 100 million or billion. I can't remember. It was like billions upon billions, and then a lot of it he loses. But yeah, it was
Now,
crazy. Although his salary
really
is 81,000. So.
The one thing that's kind of unrealistic is, would this guy have been a big sponsor for President Orlean, who we all know is who that's supposed to represent? I don't know that I even want to bring up the name because that's so divisive.
Yeah, I think it would have went the other way, but I think
the fact that billionaires have like their hands on
It was another
the
message.
government. I think can be somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
No, and there's definitely people who think that it's more than we realize, and there's people who think that
Mark Zuckerberg's in your closet.
that the government will just be able to take all these billionaires' money if they just decided to. So I mean, some people believe that the billionaires are the ones who are actually running things. Some people believe that, but what people don't even realize is like the richest people in the world don't even share their wealth, right? The princes in Saudi Arabia, I mean, they don't have to disclose how much money they have. I mean, in theory, like the style of government, you could imagine with all the access to oil and things that they have lots of money. It's all speculation. So as far as we know, these American billionaires are the richest singular people but that's all we know, that the richest singular people in America and in the Western world.
And rich doesn't always just mean dinero. It can mean anything. It can, like in Egypt.
And rich doesn't always mean powerful, but it can. And it doesn't always mean famous, but if you're... Well, it does kind of mean famous if you're a certain amount of wealth. But I don't know where I was going with this. I think there's some aspect of that's going on, and this is his theory on what that is.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to keep going to the bad things, but there were too many messages in this movie.
Oh yeah, it was message overload.
Because I saw lots of global warming, COVID, billionaires, campaigns, like how it gets politicized, how messages can get politicized, media.
Media was very and this was maybe one of the good points I'll say, is that they showed how media can tend to it's all about distracting people, but then again it never showed any of it always showed like the Daily Rip with like Tyler Perry and Cate Blanchett as their characters, which wasn't like a serious news show. It was more of just like a daily show, and it's like why they pick this show to share this. Maybe that was like, oh, this is what they would do. They would share this information on like Good Morning America or like some dumb like
Michael Strahan's the first.
Yeah,
one
Michael Strahan is the first one to know.
we all know if the end of the world's coming, like I don't know, like Timothée Chalamet is gonna go on stage and announce it, or I don't know, Kanye's gonna be the one to tell everyone that the end of the world. They're gonna make a big event about it.
End of the world concert. Yeah, I mean that's where and that did happen. Like where she had her "Don't Look Up," or no, just look up. Was Ariana Grande's song. Yeah,
right, and you can tell this movie is so pointed. It could have been a little bit more subtle because one of the lines in her song is, "Trust the effing scientists."
Oh my god! Yeah, it literally is the most like. If you thought that art has become so not, that's maybe the another concern about this movie. We keep coming up with things. If this is like supposed to be an artistic project, this is the least abstract artistic project ever.
Way too pointed.
It's so mirrored. There's no like. It's so it's just an allegory of somebody's opinion about what's going on. I mean, especially it's very lightly, like they change as little as possible, and they try to make it like funny, I guess. But
yeah,
but some of the humor is so like it just doesn't work.
I know.
That's just so. It's cringe-inducing.
It is, and
some of it's funny because it's cringe-inducing, not because it's like elicits genuine laughter. It's because like, oh my gosh, that was so like how did somebody write that and think that was a good idea? Like that kind of funny.
Yeah, it was awkward on a lot of parts, and I think the pacing combined with these are big A-list actors, and then like these lines that are coming out. I'm trying to think of a specific one. I can't think of any, but it just felt like. So the beginning was a little bit faster, I think, and then in the middle it got kind of slow. And that's another problem I had. This movie was way too long. Come on. And I know to address all the issues, it would have to be a 10-hour movie. But that's like...
It was like, what, 2 hours and 18 minutes or something?
Yeah, so there's no way that either this movie's too long or it needs to be longer. You know, if you want to address the issues, make it longer.
Also, that scene at the end of the movie after the first credits was so unnecessary.
Why? I don't want to see all that. That's disgusting. Old people, come on. That is so gross.
That was... yeah. Oh, man.
But, like, did that get... I know they said a lot of F words, but, like, that helped with the R rating and everything. I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't...
The decision-making process is very odd.
Why did they make the best character in the movie, the main character, in my opinion, or Timothée Chalamet, he might be good. Why did they make the storyline on him cheating on his wife? I get it would make.
Okay, I think crazy. The point with that was that, and I thought this was maybe the one moment that it showed a little like that McKay's like sort of idealistic version of how things should go kind of broke, was that, yeah, if somebody all of a sudden like was thrust into the spotlight, they might, and he's not necessarily grounded. I mean, he's never been put in a situation like this. Like, it's not it's like, yeah, he would make some decisions that are bad, that are like, and they don't make sense. Like, you realize by the end of the movie, and it's almost like when he does get to back together with his wife, it is kind of like seems like a genuine, like, he's genuinely sorry and she genuinely forgives him to the, like, it seems like that. But I do get that it like muddies, but I almost think that that's like the fact that he was muddied makes him a little bit more real.
Yeah, I liked the personal storylines more than the points, everything, more than the political stuff. But it distracted from the points that McKay was trying to make. That storyline was something that was separate. Which, so if you're trying to do a story that's separate, or a storyline that's separate from the, like, you got to have characters. I know you got to get into the depth of the characters. Leo's a character, can portray characters that get deep. But the point of your movie was all over the place. So you're trying to make all these different points. Plus you have a character mess up and come back with his wife at the end. And it kind of fits with the world is ending type of thing. But the resolution's very quick. You know, she just says she cheated on him once and she forgives him. So it was a whole... I
guess if it was faced against the end of the world, I think that's what it was supposed to be saying. Like, I was like, this is the end of the world. So, like, everyone knows it's going to end. So it's like, we just got to face the fact that we both have wronged each other. And that... And the thing is, I don't know, that's probably not the right process to go through. It's like, it's not.
It's definitely not.
But...
I was just confusing. Maybe that's why I'm mad.
Yeah, it was a little confusing.
But yeah, Timothée Chalamet was awesome. We'll start talking about good things. Timothée Chalamet was amazing.
He was cool. Representing the Christians.
Somewhat. They
didn't necessarily make the most Christian-like decisions.
Don't tell anyone.
Including that he didn't want to tell anybody that he was a Christian.
Yeah.
But he definitely, like, I have been a little disappointed by Timothée Chalamet in a lot of things, and I think part of it's like just the hype. Like, he gets hyped up so much, and I kind of feel like he's kind of just like a average actor who's like has some he looks interesting, so people like. But I don't know. But this movie, I feel like he did play a role. But he kind of plays this role a lot in everything. But it was good, and it was funny, and it kind of contrasted Cate DiBiase's character, where they both were trying not to care, like, in their relationship. They're like, yeah, whatever. Or
hey,
whatever. Like,
Dr. Mindy, can I be vulnerable in your car? Yeah, so he was a sweet.
I love you, and do you want to get married?
For a bunch of cold-hearted people in this movie, he was a good sweet taste.
Even if he had a hard time with it at first, he was. What were some? I wrote down, like, Jonah Hill had some hilarious lines.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, and then the snacks bit.
Yeah.
Where the general that brought them into the White House. So they went in with this guy named General Oglethorpe, who was like in charge of some sort of space force thing.
We have a space force.
Yeah, we do. I don't think that's what this was called.
I always forget about that. I saw an ad on Snapchat the other day. I don't even
join
know
the space force. But anyway. They walk in, and this guy's like, well, these snacks cost like $10 each. You know, it's so hard to get. So why don't you just like split the cost amongst yourself? And so they all give him like $10. And then later they find out that all the snacks were free. And so the whole movie, Kate is trying to figure out why. Like, what was the point? Like, why did he do that? Like, he's not like he's poor. He's like, he doesn't need $40 more. So she's like, is it a power play? Like, is he trying to play mind games? Like, what's going on? And it's like, that was pretty funny. Like, I think
it was subtle. That's why it was good.
Yeah, like the fact that she kept going. Like, it was almost like all this craziness is going on, and you go back to like why did this guy rip me off like $10?
Yeah, that was the good humor in this movie.
Yeah. The sort of stuff that like undercut a lot of the more heavy-handed
Yeah, like Jennifer Lawrence versus Jonah Hill when they would talk and stuff. I'm just gonna say their actors' names. He said she comes with the brown bag over her head, and he goes, "Oh yeah, you know the brown bag over your head? Oh yeah, that was me. Only the CIA does that, but I had the FBI do it. They don't normally do it, but I had them do it."
You know, another really funny part of the movie.
What?
Peter Isherwell was talking in a meeting, and then he brings up this lady to give her presentation, and then he goes up and he just like sniffs her hair in the middle of the movie. It was like, it's like bad. It's bad. Like I mean, I don't know. It's just really weird.
Just so random.
But it was just for some reason it was so perfect with his character. Like he would do like that guy would do something extremely weird like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that gave me a good laugh. I was like, and that's really subtle. Like that's some very subtle humor. I don't know which billionaire they were basing that off of. Maybe Zuckerberg. I don't know. Like, yeah. I'm not sure who's done that.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's what the thing was. It was kind of the subtle things were the best part about it. The pointed things weren't as good. And I'm going to keep relating it back just because the whole movie was that. Yeah, it was way too long. Way too long in my opinion.
But in the case of an asteroid, you might need insurance. In the case of the end of the world, there will be no insurance agencies. But let's just say they break up the comet, but there still might be some damage. Probably want some...
Jonah Hill survived. That could be you.
Yeah. You want some auto, home, business insurance for this situation? You should call Hedman Anglin Agency, and they'll get you hooked up. I mean, for any damages, anything that you're concerned about happening. I mean, you just want to be protected. The fact that we're not in control of our life is the whole point of insurance.
Yeah,
like you can't predict. If you could know everything that you had to do to keep yourself safe, you probably wouldn't even do it. Like. It would probably be difficult to do anyway, but we don't know, and there's a lot of things out of our control, so we need to get insurance to protect ourselves from the instances of that happening. And so if you like to, call 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. And the cardboard cutouts are still on the table.
Yeah, we've made some designs.
We've made some designs.
Yeah.
Or you could pick out your own. I think we said that in the last episode that they could pick out their own design.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
We can pick out the size of the cardboard cutouts though.
Tiny.
Yeah, very small cardboard. You don't imagine like life size.
Yeah, we're talking about like literally a piece.
How
of
are we gonna ship those to you? Yeah, like
an envelope.
like I will make a little like cardboard like design thing, and then I'll like print my face out and I'll like tape it on. That'll be my cardboard.
Hey, but it's still on the table. That's still good.
That's true. Or maybe something a little better. But you should just contact them.
Depends on who wins.
You should contact them for insurance first and cardboard to cut out second, though. Yes. I mean, let's just be honest. And another announcement: Jonathan from Hedman Anglin Agency is going to be on the next podcast, and we'll announce the movie when we have more details. But I believe that is the plan right now.
Yep.
And so that'll be exciting, and we'll get to hear more about his.
Finally get to hear about it.
Yeah.
Oh, why have we had this ad this whole time? There's a reason.
Yeah, and we'll delve into it.
Yes, it's very
well. Part of it's because we got this fancy box thing right here that he provided us.
Not to brag.
We
got the hookups.
It would be hard to do the podcast without that. We'd have to be sharing a mic, which Zach and I have very large personal space bubbles that we really can't be that close to each other.
I need 6 feet.
We need to have some semblance of being professionals.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of professional.
I guess we have experience. We definitely have experience.
Yeah, I guess.
But I still say sometimes. And I will not edit it out because I don't have time for that. Yeah. So totally cool.
Totally. Yeah, man. Yeah,
We're gonna distill our podcast to everything that's annoying that people say to fill in sentences.
It just becomes ASMR.
Yeah.
What does ASMR stand for? I've always wondered that.
Autonomous sensory meridian response.
That sounds really...
That is not what I was expecting.
That sounds almost too inappropriate.
Well, there definitely is an aspect of that in the industry.
What?
No, that couldn't happen. They didn't address that, shockingly, in this movie.
Yeah, it's more
maybe
of a big
Adam McKay's
topic.
Next movie, he'll address the
Adam McKay
pitfalls
needs to
of the
retire.
ASMR.
He's got enough money. He just needs
Yeah.
to retire.
Well, there's a lot. Like, he's just such an interesting guy because he and Will Ferrell have had a falling out. If you didn't, and I heard about this. I think it was on some podcast that I was listening to that was criticizing this movie actually, and saying how bad it was. I don't know if the guy even watched the movie. He was just criticizing it. And
Sounds like a critic.
because he was like, nobody wants to watch this, which is kind of true. But
I wanted to watch
I do want to look up some of the reviews because I am curious what the negative criticisms. Like, I know kind of what they'll probably be, but anyway, I'm getting a little distracted. But he was supposed to cast Will Ferrell in this like Lakers documentary or something. He was doing some sort of TV series, and what ended up happening is that he casted someone else over Will Ferrell, and that was just the last straw kind of thing for Will Ferrell. And what seems like it happened is that Will Ferrell maybe was trying to make a shift in his career, and Adam McKay had already kind of made a shift, and Will Ferrell got left out of that shift after having like some of his most successful movies with this guy, teaming up with this guy, kind of doing a lot of his early, like most of his early movies, I think.
Except for Elf, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of McKay's early movies were with Will Ferrell, and they were like a team. Like, I think they might have even had their own studio to get like, or a production
they had
company.
Anchorman, Step Brothers, Talladega Nights.
He co-wrote with Will Ferrell, is what it says. Anchorman 1 and 2, Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, the other guys. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies. So that's quite a few movies to co-write, act, have a directing relationship with, to have that, like, now he's dropping you for like Christian Bale and Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, I can get, like, I don't exactly know how the politics of Hollywood works, but the thing is, like, it might be a little bit of Will Ferrell not being like realistic with himself, that he's not, like, it's okay that Will Ferrell is not Leonardo DiCaprio or Christian Bale. Like,
Will Ferrell is his own. And
like,
that's good.
If Will Ferrell was like every other actor, like, he would not be like, that's the thing, he would not be famous. He would not be an interesting person to watch. So it is kind of odd how actors can kind of, maybe as I praise actors for breaking the mold, sometimes you can go too far with it, and then it'll only lead to disappointment because you're not being realistic with yourself.
You might have range, but you might be better in some areas, even if you have range.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know whether fame makes people, because if you notice, McKay kind of has done this. Fame made him believe he was an expert in a sense, right? Because now he's doing all these movies that he's like, are like historical, politically based movies, that he's presenting himself as an expert on this stuff after making some of the dumbest comedies in Hollywood. Like, now, like,
best comedies, but dumbest.
Like, and they're great, but they aren't like, they weren't like particularly intellectually stimulating. That wasn't the point of the movies. And so I often wonder, because people often turn against people who do that, but some people can switch. It's like, and then what do you even make somebody an expert? It gets all confusing. And should we even believe in that there can be experts? I guess we have to, kind of. But, like, the best neurosurgeon isn't going to know anything about, like, or he's going to know only moderate bit about almost anything else besides what he is hyper specialized in. So we should be careful about trusting people outside of their specialty.
No matter
but
how
it can be
useful.
hard to determine what people's specialty are. So this person says, here's a quick and easy lesson for the next time. If the end credits sequence is 16 minutes long, the movie is part of the problem, not the solution. I don't even think I watched the whole that. If it was 16 minutes, I didn't watch it.
It was not. He's just saying.
Oh, yeah. McKay has little trust in his audience or his characters. The film bellows its arguments at us. The world is terrible and we are doomed if we do not change. Few would dispute this, but a good argument isn't enough to make a good movie. Expensive and way over long. The film hits the same joke again and again, well past the point that has been made.
Give us a good one. Give us what.
Here's some good ones. Meryl Streep is wonderful, and she's joined in her wonderfulness by Cate Blanchett and Tyler Perry. Both hilarious. As program ends on a spiky news channel. Wait, the world is going to end? But how do I look on camera 3? I don't. There was no point.
So confused what you did.
I mean, these are all like summaries, so I don't know that you're always going to get like a good like synopsis of what they actually think. But what's interesting about Don't Look Up is that it has tapped like a tree root in the great subterranean sea of sadness around the changing world. Wow, weren't those some words that were typed out on a piece of paper? I don't, like, what am I supposed to, like, what does that mean? Like, I feel like this is the problem with writing.
Subterranean.
You can just say words that sound good together, but it doesn't mean that you said anything that has any value. Like, I don't think that means anything.
Yeah.
Is that like supposed to be like a, like, oh, that's what this whole movie is pointing out, kind of thing? Probably not. And then there's a bunch of rotten ones. But we always try to go back to the good things about the movie, but we've still ended up on the bad things.
I enjoyed it. It was watchable.
Yes, that's what I will say. It was engaging to watch.
Yeah, engaging.
And it was somewhat enjoyable to watch. I mean, it was like I watched it in a few different settings, but I kind of thought I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have to trek my way through this movie, even though I was like I was intrigued by it, but I definitely was like got kind of hooked after a certain point. So it's not all, it's like in that sense, McKay knows how to make an engaging film. There's not really any arguing that. And the actors are good enough to be engaging. And the cinematography is good enough to be engaging. So that's not really the problem in this movie. Is not like the technical aspects of it. It's the
script.
It's the substance.
It's the mind behind it.
Yeah. It's all of that. Okay. Cole Smithy claims Don't Look Up is the best American film of 2021. I mean, I only watched like 4 or 5 films. He gave it 5 stars. He gave this movie. Let's look up my Letterboxd and find out what I've given 5 stars. There's only a couple movies. And compare them. Okay. There's no way that any of them are even
on the same level.
Yeah, that Don't Look Up. Well, yeah, none of the movies I rated 5 stars are even close to being on the same level as Don't Look Up. No, I'm just kidding. Like, these are like classics. Like No Country for Old Men. Okay, some of these might be a little aggressive, to be fair, but these are also my opinion. But like, Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Finding Nemo,
The Empire Strikes Back, Finding Nemo, Memento, The Seventh Seal,
The Godfather. Go back to our previous episode.
Yeah, The Godfather. My latest one was Arrival. I gave 5 stars.
My Life is a Zucchini. Did we do that movie?
We haven't. We should.
Yeah, I like that one.
That one's it's a sad and happy one at the same time. But in Mulholland Drive, which doesn't make any sense, but it's a really good movie. Yeah, but I don't know how this guy decides what is a good movie and what's not. But
if he gives it a 5 star, he gets his paycheck.
He looks like an interesting guy.
Now, let's make fun of how he looks.
I mean, it's funny to criticize critics, because that's what we are.
We're criticizers.
But that's okay if somebody makes a podcast that's like criticizing our podcast. That I would almost find that helpful.
That would be an honor.
Yeah, that would.
That means
that's the thing
listening.
Is somebody would care enough to write something about how we. I think that's how you know you're successful, and that's how we know we're not successful. Is if there's people criticizing you, you've had enough people listen to you that you're not like. Because if you're just bad, nobody's gonna listen to any of this stuff. So that might just be where we're at.
Oh, I think Peter, what is his name?
But we're also discounting our loyal fan base, so we don't actually think we get 0 listens, and we do sometimes joke about how we don't have a ton of listenership, but it's really okay.
We get messages when we're off.
Get messages when we're off. People come up to us that we know, and we appreciate it a lot. I think that's something you can lose. It's like kind of a false sense of humbleness that I'm trying to be like, who am I to be making a podcast? But at the same time, it's like it's a fun thing that everyone can enjoy, hopefully.
I honestly forgot. Why did we start this, Ben?
Because I wanted to.
Oh yeah.
I can take you back to the moment that it happened. We were at one of our friends'
Ben's parents
houses.
met each other.
Let's go back to the very start.
They were in college, right?
Yeah, well, they didn't meet each other in college, but that's beside the point. They probably don't want me to tell too much about it without their permission. But we were at one of our friends' house, and I was like, "Hey, Zach, what do you think about starting a podcast about movies?" And Zach was like, "Sure, let's do it." And he was like, "No, let's actually do it." So and then we made ourselves buy a microphone. Zach went on vacation. We got the microphone. He came back.
Wait, how'd you remember the vacation part?
I just remember that you ordered it. We ordered it while you were on vacation or something. I was just
where was
stuck. I don't remember. I think you were in California. I think that's when you got robbed.
Don't go to California.
That's probably why I remember.
Don't go to California. You'll get your MacBook stolen. Okay.
And then we our first episode. We did in David's basement. David has now moved on to being Zach's roommate.
Those were good times.
And an undisclosed location. They were good times. Because we did review the movie Good Time.
Fun.
And that movie will always hold a special place in my heart because of that, I think. I'll always look at that movie a little differently than I look at any other movie and probably like it a little more. Even though you were probably really the craziest about that movie because of the weird
I didn't like
style.
the camera shots.
I liked the camera shots, but David and Zach both couldn't handle the way that it was shot.
Too fast.
It was kind of stimulating, like overstimulating a little bit. And so that's kind of how it started, and then
But it started our love for Robert Pattinson.
That's true. Mm-hmm. It did, and we're going to. I think we're revealing a lot about our schedule.
We're gonna review the Batman.
I think if I reveal a lot, that means I got to be held to what I say. So I'm trying to build some accountability, so we don't falter in our.
Who cares if we disappoint? Desire. Who cares? We did it because you wanted to. This is all that it started from.
A desire to just think about, take some entertainment and think about it. I think that's what I really want. I have this idea in my mind called purposeful entertainment. So if we're going to live in a society where entertainment is such a driving force, we might as well use it to work some of our thought engines in our head, right? Work some of our gears and have us think about hard things and wrestle with things, and hopefully use it not as an end. Like, watching movies should not be your end in life. Like, it should be probably hopefully a small part of your life. Like, and you should know where it should be on your ladder of things.
Yeah, make it a lower priority.
And it should not be very high. Last year, did I make movie watching a little bit higher than it probably should have been? Maybe, but that was only because I felt like I needed to build a foundation to be knowledgeable on this podcast. And now I don't care about how knowledgeable I am. So
I represent public opinion, though.
Yeah, Zach represents public opinion. I've dabbled in watching some more.
He represents movie nerd.
Yeah, that's true. Zach represents Marvel nerd. I represent movie nerd. This is literally how we should. We know how to market our.
Marvel's not movies. It's a big TV show.
Yeah, Marvel is they're. Yeah. It's like a very commercial.
We always talk about Marvel.
Yeah, we do, and that's fine. Because you can contrast it with artistic films like Don't Look Up.
So artistic.
Yeah, and so some of those I hope we can incorporate a little bit of that really nerd. Maybe we'll get some really we haven't really even scratched the surface of where you could go with really film nerdy movies like some of them that I've watched that are just absolutely
just name some.
Eraserhead or
well, that was on our list.
Eraserhead was on our list. There's this there's this French movie I like. I have to look up my letterbox now. I don't know why it's slipping my mind.
I have to read subtitles.
Do you not like subtitles?
I don't.
Parasite? I mean, Parasite's
Okay,
pretty
that-
mainstream,
That
so.
was good though.
But it's funny, even though you can't really get all of the humor.
Squid Game.
Squid Game. Let's see. Let's go to my rankings. It's somewhere on here. Yeah. So like I said, I will not even pretend that I've watched like the most the most difficult artistic movies to watch, because there's so many of them and they are difficult to watch. It's like reading a book that's like
War and Peace.
Yeah, like War and Peace. That some of these movies are like that. They're so heavy,
but headaches.
Yes, but Holy Motors was the movie I was talking about. Absolutely, like it's completely different from anything that you'd ever watch, because it totally disconnects itself from the more reality-based stuff that's popular, and it's so abstract in its concept, and just there's no way you can watch that movie and have a definitive understanding of what's going on. And so there's a time and a place for that. You can't like live in that world all the time. You would start to reach the point where you're like, why am I like, what is the purpose of doing this? What is the purpose of exploring these ideas? But every once in a while, going to a place like that can be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think a healthy balance is taking, like you said, your entertainment, which was a very wise thing for you to say, and kind of making it supplement the things that are actually meaningful in life. And movies and entertainment have meaning when they supplement. If they don't supplement, then there's no meaning.
Right.
And of course, entertainment doesn't have to be meaningful all the time. You can enjoy entertainment for a purely Anchorman type of movie.
Like Zach said, you can use it as a relaxant, like a escape, as long as it's not the only thing you are doing to escape, and you're not leaning like anything you use as a de-stressor could become unhealthy to an extent, but movies could be that for you, or it could be something else. And there's definitely things that are like always unhealthy and things, but almost anything, I would have a few remarks for things that you probably couldn't get to, like that you could never do enough of, like, and we never will do enough of. But like these types of things, there is an aspect to them that they're not that important, but in our society, there are artistic expression there.
$1 billion of industry.
Yeah, there's so much, and this is just one aspect of that. There's sports. Sports are massively popular, and they don't even have a plot.
Yeah, why? That's true. I'm not a sports guy.
I guess they do have a plot, but it's not. It feels more authentic, maybe, because it's not.
The plot is I'm gonna win. And they're filming it as we watch.
Called
live.
And so maybe that can into the new year. We've set our vision for what we want
message.
What we want the movie vault to be. I've set my vision. I put on my visionary lens.
Your WandaVision lens.
Yeah, and this is like why we're doing this. And
I missed it. What did you say?
I don't even know.
You said something movie vault, and you made big hand motion. He made big hand motions.
I did. I said I set the vision.
He did the SpongeBob.
Yeah. Ooh, the vision.
Imagination.
Yeah, and we should. I'm just excited. This is Zach and I. We to get a little personal, at least for me. Right now, academically, it's tough. It's tough, and I think it is for Zach too. Would you agree?
Yeah.
It's nice to have something that we can do that's just like a creative outlet every once in a while. Yeah. That's really what, and that would be my personal purpose for this kind of.
True.
And yeah, so we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Movie Vault. If you have anything you'd like to add about Don't Look Up, do you have any final closing thoughts about Don't Look Up or anything else?
No, I want to stop talking about it. Shout out to Stryker who texted me about Movie Vault. Thank you, bud. That's it. We should do shout outs.
We should do shout outs. If you want shouted out, email us at themovievaultpod@gmail.com. I think that's the right email. Yes, that is the right email.
It's been a while.
Themovievaultpod@gmail.com, or DM us on our Instagram account at themovievault, which I think we have had some people DM us when we were announcing stuff.
Let's shout them out.
That's what I'm saying. We got Nikolai, who was on one of our podcasts. Charlene.
Yeah, Charlene.
And those were kind of the two people. So yeah, if you want to shout out, and if you want to say something to us, but you don't want to shout it out, just like note that we'll never reveal that much about you. We're not doxing people.
Nikolai's home address is blah, blah. I know it, but I'm not gonna say it. I have that power, Nikolai. Remember that.
All right. On that note, we'll close the vault.
Oh boy, you close it then.
All right. Let's launch the nuclear device now. Let's set it off. The asteroid's coming. Don't look up. Don't look down. Don't look sideways. Don't look forward. Don't look backward. Don't look inward. Don't look outward.
Yeah.